Welcome to the Low Post. I'm Eric Stark, joined by co-host and sports writer at the Sunday News, Mike Gross. And thanks for joining us this week. Let's get right into it. The All-Star game takes place. The lineups have been announced, and some All-Star snubs. It's always great after they come out with the teams, Mike, to talk about the guys that didn't make it. Two names locally that jump out, Pat Burrell and Cole Hamels. Burrell leads the National League in home runs with 22. He hit one on Monday night as well. What do you think about these guys that didn't make it? Who else stands out, and should Burrell and Hamels have made the team, Mike?
Well, I think, first of all, this is like an annual sports commentary tradition. This is something that we talk about for a week and then completely forget about after the All-Star game.
Exactly.
But it's fun. So I have no problem with that. I think both Hamels and Burrell should have been in the All-Star game. Hamels, just because a couple of guys who did make it, Brian Wilson, a pitcher for the Giants,
who has Beach Boys.
Wrong, Brian Wilson,
okay.
Who has an above the league average ERA, and he's in the All-Star game, and he's not a token Giant because they have Lincecum, who is terrific, a guy who I look forward to seeing in the All-Star game, and the other one is Aaron Cook of the Rockies, who has a good record, but overall pretty mediocre numbers, and probably. Is there because his manager is Clint Hurdle's managing the game. I'm guessing. The thing that drives me a little nuts about Hamels' resume is there's about four situations this year where he should have been taken out of games and he wasn't. And if he had been taken out of those games, his ERA would be a run lower.
Wow.
And he'd be, in my view, and I mean I could go back and it would be painstaking, but I could go back and tell you those situations. But in which case he'd be like third or fourth in the league in ERA and have 10 or 11 wins, and it would be an absolute no-brainer that he's an all-star. So that's a little frustrating. Pat Burrell, OPS, which is slugging percentage and on-base percentage added together, he's second in the major leagues among outfielders.
Wow.
The only one ahead of him is Matt Holliday, and he just passed him in the last couple of days. As of the point that when the voting ended, Burrell was first in the major leagues in that OPS category among outfielders. So I think he should have been there too. I think he's been the Phillies' best offensive player. You can make the argument that he's not much of an outfielder. Well, some of these other guys aren't much of it, aren't giving you much defensively either. So I don't really buy into that argument. So they probably should have been there. But again, a day after the All-Star game, this will all be forgotten.
Bold statement. You said he's been the Phillies' best offensive player. Better than Chase Utley?
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
I think so. Utley has had one great month, phenomenal month, and other than that, I don't think he's just groping to find himself. And you watch him now, and swinging and missing at a lot of pitches, getting behind in the count a lot. He's not getting the walks and the hit by pitch kind of thing that he traditionally gets, which gets that on base percentage up over 400, and he hasn't been driving the ball as much lately. Utley's still a great player. I mean, I'm not down on Utley, but I just think Burrell has clearly been their best offensive player.
It's a bold statement to make, but if you look at the longevity through the season, Burrell has been more consistent than Utley. I think is what you're trying to say here too.
And also, I am nothing if not bold, Starkey. So bear that in mind.
It's interesting to see Chase Utley's actually in the home run hitting contest. I don't think of him as a home run hitter, although he leads the National League in home runs.
Leads the major leagues.
Major leagues. Yeah. And I think I'm interested to see what he does with the swing after the home run. A lot of guys, Abreu has said it, A-Rod has said it, but it's funny. The one year he was when he played for Texas, he wound up hitting .350 the second half of the season with, I think it was 24 home runs. But these guys say it affects their swing, and I'm curious to see if it doesn't screw up Utley's swing a little bit trying to hit the home run ball.
Well, Utley seems like such a thoughtful, serious guy about preparation. I can't believe that he would go out of his routine in order to win the home run derby. But it will be interesting to see. You're right. That short little compact swing in the home run derby, and not a big man either.
Right.
Interesting.
A lot of his home runs are line drives, and Yankee Stadium's not really a line drive type stadium either, so we'll see. Any other snubs or any other guys that made the team that surprised you overall, American League and National League now, Mike?
Well, Jason Varitek is the catcher for the Red Sox is just has atrocious offensive statistics. He's literally been one of the worst offensive everyday players in the major leagues, and he was voted in by the players, not by the fans. one of the things that interests me about this is that a lot of these dumb selections that we're talking about are not by the fans. Everybody always wants to say, well, the fans shouldn't be. They should take the voting away from the fans and the so-called experts. I mean, I don't really think the athletes are necessarily experts at analyzing their own sport ever in any sport, but they're not doing that great a job either.
Yeah, as of Sunday, July 6th, Veritek was batting .218. I mean, I don't. When was the last time an All-Star made it with a .218
and his other
average?
numbers are atrocious. I mean, it's not just batting average by any stretch of the imagination.
Voted by the players. He is a great leader, good guy in the clubhouse, and all the personalities he has to deal with in Boston. But it's funny, as you said, we always pick on the fans voting for these things. These players are very uninformed here as well, or it's a popularity contest in this case.
I think that's got a lot to do with it. Yeah, because Brzezinski is a guy who supposedly is a guy that everybody dislikes, and he would be maybe the most logical choice based on objective performance.
And that's the catcher with the White Sox. Yeah, a lot of people don't like his attitude and so forth, and I guess the players are showing him that maybe he better change his ways.
Since when do the players care about that kind of stuff? Like a guy being a rebel.
They have feelings too, Michael.
Okay, all right.
Speaking of guys that have feelings and are just coming up short, and you can see how frustrated they are, and he's just such a good guy. Not. Brett Myers, sent down by the Phillies about a week ago now. He's now down with the Iron Pigs and so forth. Performances with the Iron Pigs have been piggish. What should the Phillies do with Brett Myers right now, Mike?
Well, I actually pitched well last night for the Iron Pigs.
Monday evening, okay.
For whatever it's worth. The demise of Brett Myers has really, really hurt the Phillies because not only are they not getting anything from him in terms of performance, but he creates such a problem for them in terms of how to set up their pitching staff. He clearly would rather be a reliever. And it would make some sense to put him in the bullpen in the sense that, Tom Gordon is their eighth inning guy and he's a physical risk and is going to be for the rest of his career because of his age and his history. But if you put Myers in the bullpen, then you're really two starting pitchers short. They're at least one starting pitcher short as it is. Now they're maybe two starting pitchers short. We know that their system is not replete with prospects, which has become almost as important now as having a lot of money in terms of being able to acquire players. It's having a good farm system, which I think is a good thing for baseball. I think it's a good thing for baseball that the number one free agent pitcher, who is CC Sabathia, can be scarfed up by a Milwaukee.
Yes.
Talk about small market, and they're able to make the big move, and I think baseball's changing a little bit in that regard, which is a good thing, but it's not a good thing for the Phillies.
Yeah, the Phillies, Brett Myers this year, I mean, those are supposed to be the best answers. Go get Brad Lynch, put Myers back in the starting rotation. 3-9 record this year, 5.84 ERA. Not going to get it done. Career-wise, as a starter, now this might have his relief numbers in there too, but career pitching, 62 and 56. 4.49 ERA. He does not have a great ERA for his career either, really, Mike. I mean, I want somebody in the middle threes to lower, really. I look at it, though. They were trying to trade him, and I think they're still shopping him. He may get traded after the non-waiver tenure and get traded here in August. And I think they'll keep at it even in the bullpen. As a starter if they had to. He usually, now not Monday night against the Mets, but has usually given 5 to 6 good innings. But I think the best thing for Myers is if he can't get straightened out as a starter, is to put him in the bullpen, have him go 2 innings. Gordon is not reliable right now because of injuries. And I would bring up a couple of these minor leaguers like J.A. Happ, leave him up here. If Carrasco gets healthy, have him up here. And let these guys give you 5 innings and turn it over to this bullpen. Chad Durbin's been excellent. You have Myers for 2 innings in the bullpen. Matson, J.C. Romero, and then you got Lidge, who's been lights out. Obviously the bullpen's not an option. How well has he done this year for him as the closer, Mike?
He's been unbelievable. He's allowed 3 earned runs this year, and I was surprised how decisive the Phillies were here in spending some money and making that happen, and sending a little message to Brett Myers, which is very un-Philly-like organizational behavior. The Phillies have 48 wins. 18 of them have come from their bullpen. They've gotten more from their bullpen than any team in the major leagues in terms of quantity and quality. they're going to have to get another starting pitcher. And I'm just going to throw this out there. There's a pitcher in AAA who's by the name of Brian Mazzoni, 32 years old, left-hander, big guy, led the International League in ERA 2 years ago, 2006. Right now he's 8-6 with a 3.28 on a terrible team. 8-6 on an atrocious team in AAA. You see what I'm saying?
Bring him up, eat up some innings, give him 5-6 innings, and turn over the bullpen is what you're saying.
That is what I'm saying. Yeah, you got to get these innings pitched, and you can't rely on obviously Brett Myers to do it. And they've got a real problem now. And you see what I'm saying about how Brett Myers has really screwed up their season. I mean, we're talking about a team that's in first place. We ought to be talking about what a good story the Phillies are, and in fact, this other stuff, their pitching situation almost seems unworkable. It's going to be very, very difficult for them to get straightened out.
Could you get a Kyle Loesch type player here at the deadline? And who are some of the options?
Well, I think there are pretty good options. I think Rich Harden of the Oakland A's is a terrific pitcher. And the last time he pitched against the Phillies, his stuff looked unbelievable. Health is an issue for him, but right now he's healthy. Tough to make a deal with Billy Beane, who's the general manager of the Oakland A's, and win, and he's certainly going to want prospects.
Moneyball, yeah.
And the Phillies don't have prospects, so that's going to be difficult to make that happen. Other possibilities are Eric Bedard, who, although he's had some physical problems, a big talent, left-hander from the Orioles, Randy Wolf, and A.J. Burnett. Remember Randy Wolf, former Philly? He's on a bad team on a one-year deal who probably is going to be looked to be moved. And A.J. Burnett with Toronto is a guy who's been real erratic throughout his career, but had a real good second half last year and has tremendous stuff. When you watch him pitch, you don't understand why he hasn't had a better career. So these are guys that you can take a shot at. None of them are CC Sabathia, but they might be Kyle Loesch or more.
It's interesting. A.J. Burnett's the one that intrigues me the most because I think you get him cheaper. I love to have Rich Harden, does have a history of injuries. Randy Wolf knows how to pitch in Citizens Bank Ballpark, but he's turned down twice now. They tried to give him the free agent mark the last 2 years, and he hasn't wanted to come back. I don't think they're going to go after him because if he doesn't want to play here, they've given enough opportunities. You don't keep asking the person out if he keeps saying no. Or she, or whatever we're doing with here. Not that there's any wrong with it either way. Yeah,
a lot of options, a lot of ways you can go with that.
We're not going there. I'll tell you what, it looks like the Packers aren't going there either with Brett Favre. He wants to come back.
Smooth the transition.
Yeah. Speaking of Brett, let's switch to another Brett. Brett Favre, the Packers have options that they're not willing to really look into right now. Ted Thompson was on vacation last week when it came out that Brett Favre has an itch, and there's no ointment to treat it. It's called he wants to be back in the NFL. And Ted Thompson doesn't cut his vacation short, doesn't return calls. The media doesn't know what he's doing. He basically has his head in the sand right now, it looks like. Mike, so let me ask you the question. Who gives the Packers the best shot to win right now, Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers?
I'm going to go ahead and say Brett Favre, Starkey. It's funny because I think everybody, the sort of media story of Brett Favre's retirement, everybody's kind of sick of that.
Yes.
Everybody, when you heard the rumor that he was thinking about coming back, and his official response to it was, "It's just a rumor." As soon as I heard him say that, I thought, well, here we go again. But if you think about this in football terms, which is the question you're asking me, is it better for the Green Bay Packers to have Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers at quarterback? And obviously the way he has performed the last couple of years, much different than the way he performed 3, 4, 5 years ago in Favre's case. So, if you just think about it in football terms, I mean, you got to want Brett Favre to come back.
Yeah, my other question would be, was Ted Thompson, the general manager, dropped on his head recently? But since he's been made the GM, he's never given any indication that he wanted Favre there. He's always tried to push him out the door. And I think when Favre, at the end of this last season, was having some reservations, Ted Thompson didn't do anything to help keep him there. Are you sure? He was sort of all for pushing him out the door for whatever reason.
Favre is a really unique case, maybe in the history of sports, because 4 or 5 years ago, his performance was terrible.
It was.
It was awful. The last 2 years, it's been terrific. But I don't think there's any question that 4 or 5 years ago, the Packers wanted him to retire. I mean, they wanted him to say goodbye, and I think most people, including me, thought that was the best thing for Brett Favre would be. It's time to go now. But since then, the way he has played, You just have to say we were wrong. I mean, we just were wrong about this, and he's still viable. There's no reason to believe he's not viable. And if you're the Packers, if you're a Packer fan, you got to want to see Brett Favre.
Name me some quarterbacks in the league that are better than Brett Favre right now, Mike.
Well, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Carson Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Donovan McNabb.
Okay.
Now you got you. I see your point.
I
see what I suspect is your point.
That's where I'm going with this. I'm not in the football mode yet. I'm still thinking baseball. But I'm looking at this going, there's not, maybe you can come up with 8. Drew Brees, possibly. Eli Manning, maybe.
No, not Eli Manning, but Brees. I'll say Brees, yeah.
Okay. I'm going around the league, and I'm not finding quarterbacks that are better than him. And yes, he had a great year last year. But for his career, 442 career passing touchdowns. Most career yards, 61,655. These are all stats for our producer, Paul Franz, to throw up there on that screen later.
We're always thinking. We're always thinking of the visuals.
This guy has the numbers Aaron Rodgers doesn't.
Everybody knows he's had a phenomenal career. I think what's important is the last couple years, his performance level the last couple years.
Last year specifically.
Yeah. The
year before was questionable. He ended with a bad pass, a questionable pass. I don't know where the play call came on an out pattern when the wind's blowing, but
did not play well in the NFC Championship in the playoff game against the
whatever reason.
Giants.
But I think he gives them the best shot. That's an up and coming team. They easily win that division if he's the quarterback. They were, in overtime, going to the Super Bowl last year. So this is a team that's on the way. Do you hand it over to an inexperienced quarterback like Rodgers? And I think if we look back, what do the 49ers do if they didn't have Steve Young in the wings with the Niners? He goes off to Kansas City. Look at some other great quarterbacks in their careers. When they were in a situation like Favre, would the Niners have let Joe Montana get away if they didn't have a Young waiting?
They didn't have Young waiting.
Troy Aikman leaving the Cowboys, if it wasn't for the concussions, would he have gone out the way he? I'm just trying to look back on a quarterback in a similar situation. Is there anything that was similar? Johnny Unitas, these guys were injured when they were leaving the game.
Well, Johnny Unitas ended his career as a San Diego Charger.
It does
Joe
happen.
Namath ended his career with the Rams.
Montana with the Chiefs.
Montana with the Chiefs, which a lot of people have forgotten. And the thing about Favre that's unique is his durability. I don't know that there are concussion issues with Brett Favre that I'm aware of. And he's, without question, it's just a fact, he's the most durable quarterback in the history of the game.
Set me up for the stat of the week, Mike.
Once again, folks, we've been talking about numbers, but the penultimate number.
Ooh, big word.
The number that we really want to point toward. Here's Starkey's stat.
The stat of the week is 4. The amount of interleague wins the Phillies had this offseason. We've talked about interleague before. I'm not a big fan of it. 4. The Phillies were 4-11 interleague play. Get this, Mike. As of July 1st, they were 41-28 against the National League teams. So do away with interleague, and the Phillies would run away with this division.
Now the question is their record bad in interleague play because they were playing poorly at that time, or because the American League is so superior? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm throwing it out there.
Well, and it's going to have to stick on the wall for a while, so we're out of time this week. But I will say, if it wasn't for those American League teams, these guys would be running away with this division. Right now, it's awfully close.
No question.
Awfully close. Hey, we've enjoyed talking with you this week. I got a lot of things off my chest. I feel a lot better.
Cleansing breaths. Cleansing breaths.
Deep breaths. Until next week, for Mike Gross, I'm Eric Stark, and for our producer Paul Franz, we'll see you again from the Low Post.